So I decided to start doing a little bit of live streaming because it's something I used to do on my Instagram account back in the day. And I'm noticing that uh, the place I still have traction is YouTube. Um, and I think that's just because of the kind of content I do, and I'm not very consistent, and that's much more conducive to YouTube. Um, and so I've been receiving some requests to do tutorials and things like that for things for Angus. Not so much for Malcolm, but a few things. I don't get so much attention for that. Um, and yeah, just general questions and concerns people have in their journey to Angushood. But all the speaking aside, um, I'm not expecting an audience today because it is my first time doing this. And, you know, I'm pretty lackluster. So we'll just hop into it. So I remember the top request was for a tutorial to do solo for Guns for Hire. I don't remember the name of who asked, but they asked on, I believe it was the how to solo like Angus Young video. So I'll do that first. And then there was a request for things like exercises, like Angus Young licks, exercises, and things of that nature. And it might have been the same person that requested both, but that doesn't matter because we're going to please the audience. We're going to do what we were asked to do. So like everything else in this channel, this will be informal, helpful, maybe not helpful. That's why you can always follow up with me. Just always comment. I'm usually pretty good about seeing them or responding to them if there's something to respond to. So yeah, let's jump into it. So first things first, Guns for Hire is sort of one of those solos that is still very much a rock solo, but you can't forget that Angus is very much rooted in the blues, right? Excuse me. So our key is E. And let's not forget that the song goes. So that is D, E, kind of a slide, back to D, and then sort of like that D, but down one fret on the index finger, and that's A, B. And so when you get into the solo, it is the whole band kind of switches to that aesthetic. And then you just basically start soloing an E, but that's not what you asked for. So here's the basic premise of the Guns for Hire solo. So that first solo is just kind of riding that E note. Right? And so if you don't know what I'm doing, on the A string I'm going to that E note, adding a bit of vibrato, and just kind of getting that bit more of a swingy guitar sound for it. Like I said, I'm not a good teacher, but we're doing our best. And it doesn't really matter what notes you hit, because either way you're going to be reaching that same. The biggest thing is the and the. So anything you do between point A and point B, in my personal opinion, doesn't matter. Like you could go, and that would sound fine. The next part of the solo is this. And that's basically Angus doing stuff that's up here, but down lower on the fretboard. And it's kind of normally where your B position is, but it's basically just these notes. That's kind of your whole movement place you can go. You can do anything you really want there. It's just a matter of, all right, part one. And then part two would be, right? And if you want to know how I play that, it's, or something along those lines. Part three, you're up here in the normal position. And this part of the solo is sort of just a transitory, but you're really hitting that E note, and people like that bend, and so it's really important that you, at least at some point in this part three, is hitting that. And we'll go over that lick in a bit, but that's kind of the general premise, is that you want to be up here and you want to hit that E note. So you can play that if you would prefer. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really matter the notes you play there because he varies it himself. It's really not about being technical with it. So that's part three. So to this point, right? Again, doesn't matter. Just make sure you hit it, right? And this next part is one of the few parts that actually stands out. It's the part four. And you can really do it with some more hammer-ons, like. And that one, really only the notes are important. You just hit. And you can hit either of those multiple times, like I can go. Right? But you have to hit those notes because it won't sound right. Like I think I've tried before where I go. But it's usually best to just, the same way in Rosie, just do the. Right? It's kind of that same lick that he does in Rosie, if you remember the. It's that same kind of thing. And you really can just pick that out. Just nothing fancy. Just plug through it, right? Let's see. So that was part 4. I think that's the next part. Yeah, how's it go? Yeah, so the next part is this hammer-on. So you start in the A position down here. It's the same thing as this note. So it's in E, but you basically just do a chromatic hammer-on crawl. Is what I call it. Right? And again, hit that E bend. Right? And I think that's the next part we need to talk about, is once you get back to. You do kind of similar to the third thing where you're just straight up mucking about in E, like you can do. You're just screwing around until the next part of the solo comes. And then he'll do kind of a variety of things in the next part. And you're going to go up here to the E major, like the highest you can go. Or you can do, and that's the last lick of the solo. So altogether, it's something like this. It's not exactly this, but this is kind of his vibe. Really, it's kind of hard to teach that song because I thoroughly believe in you playing your own solo just in the style of Angus, right? There's no need to copy. It's not like it's Back in Black or You Shook Me All Night Long or anything like that. It's a more obscure song where he's just shredding it. So honestly, I would say just go for broke. Just make sure you're staying tasteful and within kind of those confines of at the end or something sweeter at the end. But I've seen him in the past also just ride back into that. And of course, you just end the solo in E and then transition back into the A because they're going back into the verse. So that's Guns for Hire. And if you know the second part, I guess there's a second solo. I guess, because there is that part at the end where it's... I shouldn't have to explain that. But I guess the ending goes... and then just shred, or make a loud noise in the key of E. So what I'm doing there is I'm doing an A to a B, but just these. And I'm just using my ring finger and all that here. And then I'm hitting D, E with some open string action up here. A little bit of vibrato. Come up here too. Again, that is and then you finish the song right, and everybody applauds. That's basically that solo. And what was the other thing? It was I think the exercises and then the licks of Angus's. As far as exercises, that's going to vary from person to person. So if you are a strong picker, never had any problems with picking, then you're going to want to work on this left hand. And the biggest thing of Angus's are two things. Is his ability to play hammer-ons pretty well, hammer-ons and pull-offs, and of course his vibrato. And those are two great things for building dexterity and strength. So Angus's vibrato generally is this sort of heavy finger, heavy wrist-based motion of. So if I was to slow it down and show you a different perspective, I would point out that I'm not really moving my arm all that much, but I'm focusing on, I guess this is kind of like a pendulum movement. And then if my wrist starts to get tired, you throw in some finger. And just kind of bend your finger a bit, like that. And that's kind of generally how he does his vibrato. Most of the time he keeps his thumb on. I like to think of it as an anchor. But, in the heat of the moment, you might do this. B.B. King does this. And if you can do it, if you're moving around, it's a bit harder. That's why Angus tends to use his thumb, I think. But, you know, if you're sitting still all the time, then just go ahead and do a BB King. Because it is more natural to do it with the thumb off, I think. Or do a lazy SRV and go, you know, just bob it. But I don't like that. I prefer it. I think that it's more faithful and, you know, more challenging, but it sounds better. So vibrato, do one on each finger. I'm just kind of showing you here because this is how I do it. You may do it differently. I think Angus does it slightly differently. He oftentimes adds his pinky. But you're just finding your groove and making it move. And if you want to find a separate video on vibrato, I recommend you do that because I'm terrible at explaining it. But the idea is to not move your arm too much. Kind of bob the guitar if you need to. And just going for it. And honestly, if you want to build some dexterity, then doing stuff like this for, you know, 30 minutes, an hour, watching a movie, whatever, is how I did it. Because it's challenging, and you may get a repetitive stress injury, so that's why you stretch, right? Take breaks. But yeah, just learn to get aggressive on the vibrato, though. And be able to do it in different parts. He does it a lot in his bends. Just vibrato everywhere. Practice every position. If you really want to get better at it quickly, just go one string at a time, one finger at a time, all the way up the neck. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You get my gist. And then you work your way back down. And you do that for hours, one finger at a time. Right? Because that's hard as shit to do. But, you know, you asked for exercises. And my warm-up every day is to do this. I always do things chromatic based because I think it's more interesting than just sitting there. And then the same thing. All right, and do it with the middle finger if you want to, or do it one by one, but just think of it as I'm going to do one fret at a time with these major movements. Another thing for Angus is kind of precision work. So here's where we start bringing in this lucky picking hand, though. If you recognize that lick, you probably do. I recommend you just practice that. Just or hell, I think it's actually more challenging to do it staying in place. Just stay. Right? Just repetition. And that's kind of just my general advice for exercises. Really anything you can do to toughen up your fingers, build some strength. Do bar chord vibrato. He does that. That's challenging. So I guess we'll move on with what time we have left to some licks. Number 1. Again. Or Number 2. Again. Biggest thing with this one is that pull off. Right? Number 3. Again. Number 4. Again. Number 5. Play it in different positions. It's a bit easier at first. Number 6. Slower. Number 7, I guess. Again. That's usually what I do. Next. What else? Oh, yeah. Again. It's sloppy, I know. What else? Oh, yeah. Right? Something like that. That's very common. And then as simple as it gets. Again. Showing the pick and hand here. And then you just vibrato. And that's kind of the gist of it. I don't know what my cap on time is, but that's kind of the best I got for the time being in terms of those tips and tricks. It looks like there's like a lot of either people or bots in the comments. I don't know. Not that it matters. I mean, if, you know, AI can learn this, you can too, right? So, you know, if you were to just throw all of his soloing together, I would say listen to, like, Rocker, 1979 or 1980 or 1981, the live recordings, and you'll find a perfect encapsulation. Just really whenever he's playing alone. If you want to play like him, find those parts. Jailbreak, Rocker, Let There Be Rock, all of that stuff. Because most people don't have trouble learning the actual solos. They have problems with the shredding. So if you want to learn the shredding, listen to the shredding, slow it down, and look up each part respectively. But anyway, y'all have a good night. That's all I got.